Without uttering a single word, they do not shout, they do not beg. They simply withdraw, and instantly everything transforms. The energy shifts. People begin to question, to chase after, to feel. Now, imagine if you acted in the same manner. If you stopped reacting immediately to everything. If you chose silence instead of the automatic reply. Retreat instead of explosion. What do you think would occur? That is where the core of the matter lies. When you cease to be constantly available emotionally, physically, and psychologically, the world around you plunges into chaos because people are accustomed to controlling you through your reactions, impulses, and predictability. However, the day you decide to withdraw, the game changes. And those who believed they knew you realize they truly know nothing about you. Carl Jung once stated, "Everything that irritates us about others can serve as a path to a deeper understanding of ourselves." Now consider this. When you become inaccessible, who genuinely begins to panic? Who becomes irritated? Who tries to provoke you simply to evoke some emotion in return? This reveals more about the other person than about you. And most importantly, it exposes how much you are still being manipulated without even recognizing it. You keep giving yourself to please others, to maintain peace, and to avoid losing people who deep down were never truly with you. With every forced yes, every immediate response, every emotional reaction, you are surrendering a piece of your energy, and at the end of the day, what remains is exhaustion, frustration, and emptiness, an inexplicable void. But I'll tell you why this happens. Because you are overly available for those who do not deserve even a moment of your silence. This video is not about turning your back on the world. It's about choosing yourself. It's about understanding what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole, authentic, complete. This journey begins when you realize that silence can be more powerful than 1,000 arguments. That withdrawal driven by awareness, not escape, is an act of strength. So I ask you now, looking into your own eyes, how long will you allow yourself to be controlled by the emotions of others? How long will you continue to react like a puppet whenever someone pokes at your wounds? Perhaps it's time to sever those strings, to withdraw, to become a mystery, because when you cease to be constantly accessible, everything changes. You have been conditioned to always be present, to respond quickly, to please, to say yes, even when you want to say no. Since childhood, you have been conditioned to believe your worth depends on how available you are to others. But here is a truth that perhaps no one has clearly explained. This excessive availability is not a virtue. It is a prison. And as long as you think you need to be accessible at all times, emotionally or otherwise, you will be manipulated, drained, and forgotten as soon as you are no longer useful. Do you know why? Because being constantly available makes you predictable, and everything predictable becomes a tool. People begin to treat you as an emotional emergency button. They press it when they want attention, reassurance, validation, and then put you back on the shelf. You might not realize this, but you are trapped in an illusion, believing that being there for everyone will ensure someone will be there for you. But that's not how it works. Carl Jung spoke about the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted, loved, and recognized. And it is precisely this mask that keeps you overly available. You say it's okay even when you are suffocating. You respond to messages immediately even when exhausted. You justify, defend, and explain yourself as if you owe the world an explanation. But the reality is that the more you center yourself on other stages, the more you lose sight of your own being. An always available attitude is a subtle form of self-neglect, a disguised attempt to seek approval, avoid rejection, and control others' perceptions of you. But this control comes at a cost, the loss of your peace, your vital energy, which you distribute as if unlimited, even though it is limited, very limited. Those who want you always available do not truly want you. They crave what you provide: validation, company, distraction, emotional comfort. But when you change, when you set boundaries, when you refuse to react, those same people become irritated, accuse you of being strange, or claim you've changed. It's not because you changed, it's because you stopped being functional for them. And here's the harsh truth. The more available you are, the less value others attribute to you. Because what is overly abundant diminishes its worth, becomes an emotional rag. No one respects what they don't have to earn. No one values what is always there. So, pause and consider, who truly deserves your time? Who deserves your attention, your presence, your listening? Or better yet, who is worthy of your absence? But before answering, you must understand one crucial detail. Why do we react so often? Why do we give in so effortlessly? The answer lies in what Carl Jung called psychic energy, and that is what we will explore next. Because your energy is all you possess, and if you don't learn to protect it, someone else will use it against you. If this message resonates with you, click the subscribe button and support the channel. Thank you. Jung did not see the human psyche as a machine reacting to stimuli without consequence. Instead, he believed our mind is like an energy system, where every thought, emotion, and action depletes a portion of that energy. The question is, are you choosing where your energy flows, or are you letting the world decide for you? Every impulsive reaction you have is a waste of psychic energy, whether defending yourself against unwarranted criticism, responding to provocations just to prove a point, engaging in futile debates, or trying to please those who don't value you. You're spending your inner strength on things that do not nourish you. Jung was clear. What you resist persists. The more you react, the more you tie yourself to those issues. People who live emotionally drained are not weak. They are misguided. And you know what happens to those who live exhausted? They become vulnerable. And when you are vulnerable, you are an easy target. Prey to manipulation, opportunism, and emotional dependence. These people sense this. They can tell you do not know how to guard your energy, that you react to everything, that you constantly try to fix the world. Jung claimed that a healthy psyche is one that knows how to contain its energy, that it is capable of saying no without guilt, remaining silent without feeling cowardly, observing before acting. Because true power is not in reacting but in choosing when and how to act. This is only possible if you know yourself well enough to recognize your impulses. How many times have you lost sleep over an unresolved conversation? How many hours have you spent ruminating trying to figure out what you should have said or why someone treated you poorly? This is energy being drained without any return. You are keeping alive ghosts that should have died long ago, feeding cycles that persist only because you keep responding. Psychic energy is like a force field. When it is well guarded, it creates presence. You enter a room and command respect without saying a word. But when it's poorly managed, you become invisible, reactive, fragile, prey to the world. So start observing your triggers. What makes you react automatically? What makes you lose your equilibrium? These are the exact points where your energy escapes, and that is where you need to focus. Not to become cold or indifferent, but to be selective, sovereign over yourself. Here is one of Jung's greatest revelations. When you conserve your energy, you break the projections others place upon you. This irks many because it opens the door to a darker territory, the realm of silent manipulation. In the next section, we will explore how opportunistic individuals feed off your energy and why your unavailability completely disarms these games. Prepare yourself to look into the eyes of those who have been draining you without your awareness. You believe you are in control. You believe your reactions are conscious choices, but the truth is darker. Most of your emotional responses are programmed, and those who understand this can manipulate you easily. Opportunists don't need to raise their voices, threaten, or intimidate. They simply trigger your exposed buttons, and you react, always. Carl Jung called this phenomenon projection, the psychological mechanism where people attribute their own unconscious traits onto others. But there's another aspect often overlooked. While others project onto you, you also serve as a blank canvas for these projections. The more emotionally available you are, the more you become a receptacle for these images. You know that friend who only reaches out when they're in crisis? That partner who only needs you to save the day? That person who compliments you but only as long as you are useful? None of this is accidental. They are not truly connecting with you, they are relating to the idea of you. to the role you accept to play. And why do you accept? Because you're afraid of disappointing, of not being loved, of abandonment. The most effective manipulation doesn't happen through shouting. It happens through the silence of guilt. When you feel you owe something to the other, when you believe you must always be available, to help, to understand, even if it destroys you inside. This is the core point. The manipulator doesn't need to control you. They only need you to keep reacting the same way. But when you stop reacting, the game falls apart. When you start saying no, remaining silent, withdrawing instead of explaining yourself, the projections begin to shatter. The mask they've placed on you falls away, and this unsettles people because now they don't recognize who you are. Worse, they are forced to confront their own flaws. Not everyone can handle this. Your unavailability threatens them. It compels others to face their own emptiness. The silence you offer unveils their internal noise, the things they refuse to hear. Then comes the attack, the criticism, the emotional drama. Not because you're wrong, but because you have stopped serving as a convenient mirror. Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." When you withdraw and cease feeding the cycle, the shadow of others begins to surface. This is intolerable for those who have always used you as a way to escape themselves. But what about you? Are you prepared to face the discomfort of being misunderstood, rejected, or even hated for protecting your boundaries? Are you ready to endure the silence following the rupture? Because it is precisely in that silence that a new kind of power is born. And that is what we will discuss now. In the next section, you will understand why silence can be the most destructive weapon of the human psyche and how it fundamentally transforms the dynamic between you and the world. Today's modern society is noisy. Everyone's eager to be heard, to respond quickly, to win pointless debates, and to prove their points, even at the expense of their peace. But there is a power few are aware of. Indeed, very few master. The art of silence, not passive silence or cowardly silence, but conscious, strategic, brutally clear silence. The kind of silence that is not absence but amplified presence. Jung viewed silence not as an emptiness but as fertile ground for inner transformation. When you stop reacting, you begin to observe. And in observing, you discover patterns that went unnoticed before. Emotional repetitions, manipulation tactics, cycles of self-sabotage. Silence promotes lucidity, and lucidity is dangerous for those who seek control. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond or explain yourself, when you simply disappear? It's not because they miss you, it's because your silence robs them of their narrative control. While you speak, you are still in the game, but when you choose silence, you change the rules, and that destabilizes anyone who thrives on your reactions. True silence isn't the absence of voice, it's mastery over one's energy. It's the refusal to be dragged down by another's emotions. It's the conscious decision not to engage in battles that are not worth your energy. Jung said that the process of individuation, the journey of becoming your true self, requires this distancing because only in silence can you listen to yourself without external interference. But don't be fooled. Silence carries a cost. It will distance you from those who only valued you for the role you played. It will make you incomprehensible to those who only saw you through their projections. It will make you seem cold, distant, arrogant. All reactions from those who never wanted to face your depth, only your utility. The harder truth is this. The more you mature, the more selective you become with your words, because you realize each sentence is an energetic investment, deserving of your conscious choice. Sometimes silence isn't retreat, it's sovereignty. It's the language of those who no longer feel the need to prove anything. Silence is uncomfortable because it forces others to confront their own internal noise. That discomfort reveals more about them than any argument could. You don't need to explain your absence. It speaks for itself. Those who feel threatened by it show how much they depended on your imbalance to maintain their own control. But the most powerful silence isn't the one that disturbs others. It's the silence that reconstructs you from within, a silence that connects you to something beyond external approval. It's in this inner space, free from external demands, that you begin to recover your vital energy and reconnect with your essence. And that is precisely what we will discuss next, for it is not enough to simply eliminate external noise. You must learn how to use your energy consciously, to decide where it goes, where it remains, and most importantly, where it should never be wasted. It's time to become selective with your own soul. If you are in the process of reclaiming your energy and setting boundaries, you will find true value in my book Beyond the Shadow. It explains Jung's most important ideas and provides practical tools to protect your energy, establish boundaries, and reconnect with your authentic self. The link is in the pinned comment. It's pointless to understand all of this intellectually if in practice you keep saying yes when you mean no. If you respond to bothersome messages. If you participate in empty conversations and maintain relationships that only exist out of inertia. Awareness without action is just another form of self-deception. True transformation begins when you decisively choose to be selective. This requires emotional discipline. Conscious unavailability isn't about being cold, arrogant, or indifferent. It's about no longer being accessible to everyone, at any time, for any reason. It means taking control of your own energy, your time, your peace, starting with small actions, not responding immediately, breathing before reacting, leaving a discussion before chaos ensues, turning off your phone without guilt, saying not today or I'm not interested or I won't get involved. But most importantly, you don't need to justify your absence. It explains itself. Those who feel threatened by your silence reveal how much they depended on your imbalance to keep their control. Jung understood that every process of individuation involves solitude, not a depressive isolation but a sacred retreat, an inner process where you reconnect with your voice without outside interference. It is in this space that you rebuild your identity, not based on others' opinions but from your core. Want a good indicator of your growth? Observe who begins to distance themselves when you become more reserved, who tries to provoke you when you stop reacting, who claims you've changed when you start protecting yourself. These aren't signs that you're wrong. They prove that you are starting to free yourself. Being unavailable will initially feel uncomfortable. Guilt may arise or the fear of seeming selfish or harsh. This is part of the deconstruction process. You have been conditioned all your life to prioritize others, to put yourself second. It's natural that change causes discomfort in you and in those who benefited from your previous version. Conscious unavailability is the foundation of self-determination. When you say no to the world, you say yes to yourself. When you withdraw from toxic environments, you reaffirm that your peace is worth more than any false connection. When you stop explaining, you begin to be respected, even if only by a few. And not everyone is ready for so much presence because your emotional absence will expose wounds they do not want to confront. It will reveal how much they depended on your chaos to feel in control. At this moment, rupture occurs. With it comes pain, loneliness, estrangement, the feeling of losing something. But in reality, you are simply freeing yourself. So what comes after? What follows the distancing? What is born from silence? In the last section, we will explore this about rebirth, that only happens when you have the courage to be misunderstood, to be alone, and to become whole by yourself. It's time to understand that the loneliness of the strong is the path to genuine freedom. When you stop being available to everyone, something profound begins. First, silence, a painful, screaming silence. You question if you made the right choice, if you are too harsh, if you are losing people who liked you. But gradually, this silence transforms. It begins to cleanse, to calm, to heal. Then, solitude. Not the absence of company, but the presence of your own. The solitude of strength, of someone who no longer betrays themselves to keep others close. In this space where confusion once was, clarity emerges. Where anxiety once ruled, peace takes its place. Where neediness once existed, a new strength arises. The strength of being complete within oneself. Jung said that the process of individuation, becoming who you truly are, demands distancing from the collective. You disidentify from the mask. Walk alone for a while and rebuild your sense of self from your core. Want a good measure of your evolution? Observe who begins to distance themselves when you become more reserved, who provokes you when you stop reacting, who claims you've changed when you start to protect yourself. These aren't signs you're wrong. They are proofs that you are starting to free yourself. Being unavailable initially feels uncomfortable. Guilt may whisper, or the thought that you're selfish or harsh may creep in. But this is part of your process of deconstruction. You've spent your life conditioned to prioritize others. It's only natural that change brings discomfort. Conscious unavailability is the foundation of self-determination. When you say no to the world, you say yes to yourself. When you withdraw from toxic environments, you reaffirm that your peace deserves priority over superficial connections. When you stop explaining yourself, you begin to earn respect, though perhaps only from a few, but that's enough. Not everyone is ready for this level of presence because your emotional absence can reveal wounds they do not want to face. It will show how much they relied on your chaos for their sense of control. And the moment the rupture happens, pain, loneliness, and estrangement follow. Yet in reality, you are only liberating yourself. What happens after? What comes following the distance? What is born from the silence? In this final section, we will explore just that, about rebirth, that only occurs when you have the courage to be misunderstood, to be alone, and to become whole on your own. It's time to grasp that the loneliness of the strong is actually the path toward genuine freedom. When you stop being accessible to everyone, something deep and transformational begins to unfold. First comes silence, an uncomfortable silence that screams within, making you question if you did the right thing, if you're too harsh, if you're losing those who liked you. But little by little, this silence begins to shift. It purifies, calms, and heals. Eventually, solitude arrives. Not just the solitude of absence, but the solitude of complete presence with oneself. The solitude of strength, of one who no longer sacrifices their authenticity for others' approval. Where once was confusion, now clarity. Where once was anxiety, now peace. Where once was neediness, now a new power, the power of wholeness within. Jung said that the path of individuation, becoming truly oneself, requires distancing from the collective. Disidentify from the mask, walk alone for a while, and rebuild from your core. Want a good indicator of your progress? Notice who begins to drift away when you become more reserved. Who tries to provoke you when you stop reacting? Who claims you've changed when you start to protect yourself? These are not signs of failure. They are signs of your liberation. Being unavailable may feel uncomfortable initially. Guilt might whisper, or the fear of appearing selfish might rise, but it is part of the process of deconstruction. You spent your life conditioned to prioritize others. Now, change inevitably causes discomfort. Self-awareness and conscious unavailability are the foundations of true self-empowerment. When you say no to the world, you are affirming your own value. When you withdraw from toxic situations, you reinforce that your peace is worth more. When you cease to explain your choices, you gradually gain respect, perhaps only from a few. But that's enough. And not everyone will be ready for this level of authentic presence because your emotional absence exposes wounds they'd rather ignore. It will reveal how much they depended on your chaos to control themselves. And once the rupture begins, pain, loneliness, and estrangement follow. Yet in truth, you're only freeing yourself. So what follows this? What comes after the distance? What is born from silence? In this final part, we will discover that rebirth happens when you have the courage to be misunderstood, to face solitude, and to become whole on your own accord. Remember, the loneliness of the strong is the gateway to authentic freedom. When you cease to be available universally, something profound starts. First, silence. A tense, screaming silence. You question if your decision was right, if you are too harsh, if you are losing connection with those who liked you. But over time, this silence transforms. It purifies, it soothes, and it heals. Then arrival of solitude, not just loneliness, but complete presence within yourself. The solitude of strength, the solitude of those who no longer betray their authenticity to keep others close. In this space where confusion once reigned, clarity arrives. Where anxiety once lived, peace takes its place. Where neediness existed, a new strength emerges, the strength of being whole within oneself. Jung said that the process of individuation, becoming your true self, necessitates stepping back from the collective. Disidentify from the mask. Walk alone for a season and rebuild your identity from your core. Want an indicator of growth? Watch who begins to distance themselves when you become more reserved. Who provokes you when you stop reacting? Who claims you've changed when you start protecting yourself? These aren't signs of failure. They are signs of liberation. Being unavailable will be uncomfortable at first. Guilt may show up. Fears of selfishness or harshness may surface. Yet this is part of your evolution. Conscious unavailability is the foundation of self-determination. When you say no to external expectations, you affirm yourself. When you withdraw from toxic surroundings, you show that your peace is the priority. When you stop explaining yourself, respect naturally follows, even if only from a few. Not everyone can handle this truth. Your emotional absence will reveal wounds they'd rather ignore. They depended on your chaos to feel in control. And at that moment, the rupture begins, bringing pain and loneliness, but also liberation. What comes after is rebirth, an awakening to your true strength. When you embrace solitude, rejection, and misunderstanding as part of your journey to wholeness. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring videos. Leave a like to support the message and share it with those who need to hear these words. Together we can transform lives and spread inner freedom.